You're thinking about buying a used MacBook for high school or college, and you want to know what is the right one to get without spending way too much money or going way too above your needs. Well, luckily, you are in luck because most MacBooks nowadays are able to do school stuff just fine. However, I know everybody's budget is different, I know everybody's needs and what they're planning on studying is different, and I know how long people plan on holding these laptops for is different. So I'm going to go give my top recommendations on what's the best MacBook to buy depending on your needs, and also what specs are worth upgrading, and finally, some shopping tips to help you save money. I'm going to start off with the new MacBooks, and the new MacBooks Apple currently sells is the MacBook Airs and these 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros. Now you might be wondering, what is the difference? Well, I have a list of differences here, and you can go on Apple's website to see this for yourself. But starting off with the screen, you do get a bigger 14-inch and 16-inch screen size options on the MacBook Pros. You also get 120 Hz, which is a higher display refresh rate. So when you're scrolling through content or watching videos or anything that has a lot of movement, it just looks and feels a lot smoother on the MacBook Pros. And you also get something too called Mini LED, which basically helps give the display more brightness and it helps the colors pop and gives it better contrast. So if you're outside or you're somebody who likes that really high quality display, that is a really good option, is to get those MacBook Pros. You also get more processor cores with the MacBook Pro and active cooling, which is basically a computer fan. And if you really wanted to too, you could spec out the storage to like 8 terabytes and 128 gigabytes of RAM. And then you have extra ports too. So you have an extra SD card slot and then an HDMI port. One downside to the MacBook Pro though is you are missing out on 2 color options, Midnight and Starlight. So if you want those color options, unfortunately, you're going to have to go with a MacBook Air. To be 100% honest here, I'd only go with these MacBook Pros if you're doing high-end professional stuff. As for about 90% of you watching this or more, the MacBook Air is going to be just fine for you. I've been using a MacBook Air M1 to do video editing and photo editing, and it has lasted me these past few years just fine without any issues whatsoever. Now, if you go on Apple's website, you'll see they sell 2 types of MacBook Airs. They sell the M2 MacBook Air and the M3 MacBook Air. Now, I'd highly recommend, if you're in the boat of buying new, to just go for the M3 MacBook Air because it's $100 more. And with that, you get support for up to 2 external monitors natively with the M3 MacBook Air. And you are likely going to get an extra year of software support in the long run. And then some shopping tips too for those who are buying new. I'd highly recommend checking out Apple's education store just because you can get some pretty big discounts there. And at times too, they have like special deals going on where you can get like a free Apple gift card or a free pair of AirPods, just random stuff like that. And it depends on the year, but I remember last year I bought my iPad Pro and I got a $100 gift card that I spent towards an Apple Pencil. So things like that help, just going with the Apple education store over like a generic store like Amazon, Target, and even just Apple's regular store. Now, what are my spec recommendations? And this applies to all MacBooks I'm going to recommend here in this video. 256 gigabytes of storage, I think, is enough for people who are doing a lot of online work. However, if you are doing more professional work or you want to like future-proof your laptop a bit, I think it is worth spending that extra $200 to get 512 gigabytes of storage. And another option too, if you are in the boat of saving money, is to use external hard drives. And that's what I've been doing with my 256 gigabyte MacBook Air right here. I have a 2 terabyte OWC hard drive that I boot off of, and I run everything off of that and store a lot of my larger files on that. And that has helped me save a lot of money. But do keep in mind, if you are speccing out the hard drives on these, that you cannot upgrade the hard drive later, which really sucks. And it sucks that these hard drives are soldered down. But I just want to make sure you're aware of that before you go out there buying, thinking, oh, I'll go with 256, and if I need to upgrade later, I can. Unfortunately, they're not upgradable. That's also kind of the similar story with RAM here too, but I think 8 gigabytes of RAM is going to be just fine for those who are, again, using this for casual use. But if you are dabbling into some of those professional apps a bit, I'd highly recommend, if you can afford it, to go to 16 gigabytes of RAM. I think it does help the laptop run a bit snappier, but if you're stuck with 8 gigabytes, don't worry. I think you're going to be just fine unless you have 20 Chrome tabs open, you have a video editing software open, and you have Adobe Photoshop open. And then one final option you'll see here too is Apple Care. And I think that's great if you're rough with your laptop or think you might potentially break it, because these laptops are really expensive to replace. It's a few $100s just for the screens part cost with these. So you definitely want to be careful with this laptop, but if you want that extra peace of mind, AppleCare might be worth it for you. Now I'm going to go move on to what I like to call the best value range, and this is where I think a lot of you are going to fall. And in this range, we have the M2 13-inch and 15-inch MacBook Air, as well as the M1 MacBook Air. Now these laptops, they are a bit older, they're about 1 to 3 years old now. However, you are still going to get the latest macOS updates for at least a few more years. The M1 MacBook Air, I'd say it's going to last you about 4 years of getting the latest versions of macOS. And the M2 MacBook Airs, I'm going to say anywhere between 5 to 6 years of still getting the latest versions of macOS. Now, doing a comparison here between the M2 MacBook Air and the M1 MacBook Air, the M1 MacBook Air has a 13.3-inch display, and then the M2 MacBook Air has a 13.6-inch display, so it's a bit bigger because of those thinner bezels. And they both support P3 wide color gamut and up to 500 nits of brightness, which makes them a really good option for photo editors and video editors. Storage and RAM, they both come standard with 256 gigabytes of storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM. And then processor, the M1 has an 8-core CPU and a 7-core GPU, and the M2 has an 8-core CPU and a 10-core GPU. As for ports, they both have the same ports. They both have a headphone jack. They both have two USB-C ports. However, on the M2 MacBook Air, it can be charged through MagSafe charging. So that's really nice if you want to free up an extra USB-C port. And then finally, colors. The M2 MacBook Air comes in a midnight color and a starlight color that you cannot get with the M1 MacBook Air. Now, I think these MacBooks are the best value for anybody who's doing photo editing, video editing, music production, coding, just more of your creative tasks that aren't going like too crazy with it, where they're having, 100 music tracks or doing 4K video editing. And for the average user, this laptop is still probably your best option, just because these get like 16 to 20 hours of battery life, and the M series of chips makes things run really smoothly and snappily on these. And I haven't, had seen any slowdowns with this computer whatsoever. And the value over time of these two is going to be amazing. So these will last you 4+ years, and the resale value of this is going to be anywhere between $200 to $400 for these laptops. So even though you are spending a lot of money now, you are going to be able to resell this in like 4 to 6 years. You're going to be able to get some money back for it. As for where's the best place to buy these laptops, the best place to buy it, in my opinion, is to get Renew Premium off of Amazon. So looking at the prices here, you can get the M2 13-inch MacBook Air now for around $800, the 15-inch M2 MacBook Air for around $900, and the M1 MacBook Air for around $650. So if you are thinking about buying one of these off of Amazon, I have affiliate links down below that both help support the channel and my college tuition bill. So if you want to buy it from one of those links, it's greatly appreciated. Now, moving into some of the more budget options, we have the 2013 through 2015 MacBook Airs and MacBook Pros. And these MacBooks, they do run an older version of macOS, so that might cause issues later on the line if you plan on downloading like Microsoft Office and it requires a certain version. However, you can use this thing called OpenCore Legacy Patcher that allows these MacBooks to run a newer version of macOS and can therefore get you extra years of support. So these laptops are a really good option if you're just looking for a temporary solution to last you maybe up to 2 to 3 years. And these laptops too are also still really good for browsing the web and doing all those types of tasks. And build quality wise, these are better than what you're going to find for a Chromebook in around this price range. Now, you can find these MacBooks for around, I would say anywhere between $100 to $300. And you might be wondering too, what's the difference between a 2013 through 2015 MacBook Air and Pro? And I kind of have a short list here, but the MacBook Pros, they have a Retina display. So the display is a high resolution and a bit more high quality. They also obviously have better processors, and they have an HDMI port if you want that built in. And then now I'm going to go move into some of the higher end MacBooks in this budget range. And these are about $300 to $500. And in this range, you have the 2017 and 2018 MacBook Pros. Now, I'd say these MacBooks are probably the minimum for any type of professional work. They're still great for coders, they're still great for music producers, they're still great for all those types of things, and they still meet the requirements for those applications as well. However, Apple's Pro apps currently, Logic Pro, Final Cut Pro, I'd say they're on the verge of getting cut off with the 2017 model. So if you plan on using Apple's Pro apps, I'd maybe go to like the 2018 MacBook Pros. And the 2018 MacBook Pros, currently they can run macOS Sonoma, and they're going to support macOS Sequoia coming out in the fall. They also have a touch bar and Touch ID, so it kind of gives that more modern Mac experience with those two features. And this would be my top recommendation if you are in that budget range. But do keep in mind though, if you are spending $400 to $500 on a laptop in this budget range, I'd really just highly recommend saving the extra money and getting an M1 MacBook Air. And the reason why is these MacBooks in these budget ranges I just mentioned, they get about 6 to 8 hours of battery life realistically, which isn't super great, and you're still gonna have to carry a charger with you. And if you can just spend that extra money to get an M series MacBook, just having that extra performance, that extra battery life, all those extra features you're getting, I really think it's worth it in my opinion. Now, there's no right or wrong answer as to what MacBook you should get, but one key takeaway I think you should have from this is get something that's just above your needs to last you for a few more years without overdoing it. And you can always sell these MacBooks too if you decide later down the line that you either spent too much or you spent too little and you don't have something that's performing above your needs. But anyways, I'll have links down below as to where you can purchase these MacBooks or check out the current pricing. Thank you all for watching. I'll put reviews up on screen if you're interested, and goodbye.